Hi everyone, welcome to today's penultimate episode of season 3. Today we're going to be talking about success and money, and more specifically, does money make a person successful, or can success come before wealth? But before we begin, thank you so much for supporting us either on YouTube or Spotify, and if you're part of Podbean, thank you for taking time to listen. If you're not aware already, you can support us via Patreon just for the price of a cup of coffee. So head over to the description where you can find out how to support us. And Kelly and I know I'm speaking for her, I know she would, and me too, would appreciate if you know of anyone who can benefit from this podcast, give this a share. And without further ado, welcome my beautiful, gorgeous, amazing co-host, Kelly.
You always do the most beautiful introduction. So I'm going to say back, thank you, my gorgeous, amazing co-host, Tuls. How's your day?
Not too bad. It's been a bit crazy. So I've been in like a hermit mode for the first probably half of the year. And then all of a sudden things have picked up. So it's pretty insane. But I think, summer, you make these choices of, it's brighter out. You want to do more stuff. You want to pack more things in. You say yes to more things.
So do you mean more outings, more personal stuff, or more work stuff, or all of the above?
All of the above. Yeah.
Yeah. Easy girl.
What about you? You've had a shocking day today, right? Super, super busy.
Well, it's just a busy day. Busy day. I look tired. I feel a little bit tired, but you always perk me up. I've just had a combination of a very physical day with the work I do, and then mental day with people turning up with injuries and having to do a session with a client in front of a neurosurgeon. Wasn't a neurosurgeon. The neuro someone. And I'm so tired, so I can't even think of who it was. Neurophysician. And he would just say, all right, so if a client presented with this, how would you go about it? If they presented with that, how would you go about it? And so it was like I had to be really on my toes and think about it, because he wanted those answers straight away. And I don't think he realizes how personal some of those things are, but you would realize, one person could turn up. You treat the personality a lot of the time, especially when it's a neurodegenerative disease.
Yeah.
So you and a lot of the people who are listening would understand that, but someone who doesn't coach different personalities through pain or through dysfunction wouldn't necessarily, and he didn't really understand that. So it was a challenge, and so I'm tired from that. Anyway, not that everyone really probably cares too much about that. Let's talk about what we're supposed to talk about.
Yes. Okay, then I'm going to dive straight into it. So you know me, I've had a little bit of a gander about what people's opinions are, what research is saying out there. And I found out that, okay, so we all know, people who listen to this podcast, developed countries work with money, right, to develop civilization. Money has benefited projects, the state, creates job opportunities. It can reduce poverty. It can reduce unemployment. I'm only laughing because there is still so much that we can do. So anyway, there is a massive discrepancy between wealthy and the poor. We know that. A rich country provides education, health to its citizens, and also it advances its weapons to protect its borders, external aggressions, and advances in space, right? So there's a lot of countries who are putting investment into those areas. And I read an article saying money is the most important thing in life. And whoever says money is the secret to success is wrong. That there are things that can't be bought with money, but there are things that can only be bought with money. Now, wait for it, Cal. The article then goes on, because I was a bit like, what? But then the article goes on to say that money means success, although it doesn't buy or guarantee success or everything. It may improve the chances of success. And this is what I want us to talk about. Although I know that money can buy medicine, it doesn't buy us health, right? So that's not 100% guarantee. But then it also brings us to the path of success closer, right? So everything in an adult's life with financial responsibility has to do with money. It means that we're providing a sense of comfort, safety, for children and our families, definitely all over the world. But in the case of establishing any trade, it's going to require saving money. And the more money can solve certain obstacles, right? Many small businesses fail because they need at one time a small amount of money. And so I was like, okay, so there's a lot in that, right? So there's developed countries who rely on money to progress and develop their country. It's obviously utilized for us to buy things. Then that article says there are things that can't be bought with money, but they're the things that can only be bought with money. So what do you think? What is your idea around money and also then success?
Holy moly. Okay, if I just try to put everything you've just said there beside and come back to that, my own opinion on what defines success is being a good person. I really do. I think being a good person can define you the way money can't define you. You can define yourself by money and how many things you own. But I see what other people think about you and say about you and the good things you do. And
okay, I'm going to pause you there. I like the way you started with that, but then you went on to say how people think about you and talk about you. Is that relevant? You could be the best, nicest person in the freaking world, but there's going to be somebody and somebody's opinion who doesn't align with you, or like there's a lot of trolls on social media.
Someone who wants to bring you down, or
yeah.
But you know what? That my grandfather would always say, and I've heard it said many, many times since, if you're not creating friction somewhere, and this doesn't mean being a bad person, but if you're not creating friction somewhere, then you're not making progress, or you're not progressing yourself and your growth. But that doesn't mean you have to do it in a way that's hurting other people. So at the footnote of everything is being a good person is my version of success. Now, if other people don't say you're a good person, if they have something to say about you when you did something wrong, then if it's true, then learn from it. And if it's not true, you can stand up and say it's not true, especially if you've got evidence to prove otherwise.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if you agree, but there's a lot of people who are very well aware that if you come from an affluent background, if you come from money, the chances of success are a lot higher than if you struggle. But then on the flip side, the highly successful people that I know have been dirt poor, like ridiculously poor, and then they've ended up accumulating success and millions of dollars. And I'm talking predominantly Americans now, because there's a lot more stories out there. They have improved their lives and obviously gained a lot of money and success in money, because it was like, I think it was Elon Musk that he said, you've got for success to happen, you've got to run towards something, but you're running away from something. So it's almost like having that balance between you're running so far away from, I don't want to be poor anymore, I don't want to suffer, I don't want to do all of these things, and then your goal is, I'm running towards something. So I was just like, okay, so they may have been successful, but money may not have been the ultimate purpose. Like Bill Gates, the reason he was successful is because he wanted every household to house a computer. He wanted everybody to experience this software. But as a consequence, that made him successful, that made him a billionaire.
I think you'll find most people say that. And I've heard, I believe it was Oprah saying, if you just try to make money, then, you might make some money, but you're not going to make a whole lot of money. But if you have a goal, like every household can have a computer, everyone should, and this is mine, everyone should be rich enough to have the joy of being able to give. So the joy of giving to me is the greatest joy of all. Giving time, giving money, giving energy is my joy. And I think everyone should have enough money to be able to give it away for something they believe in.
I'm going to throw another spanner around. I'm just going to be difficult with you today. I don't know why.
Yes, you are. All right, go.
Okay, so I have noticed, and there's hearsay, so this isn't everyone, but this is obviously one interpretation of something. This is one example. If you go to a rich neighborhood, or if you go in a certain area and you ask for help, there aren't that many people who will help you. Whereas if you go to a poor area or people who don't have that much, there are so many stories to say, if you ask a rich man for money, he'll probably ask why or no, or give you the answer of no. But if you ask a poor man for money, he may not give you money, but he'll give you a place to stay, to sleep, to house you. He'll nurture you back to health. Like, he will give you the clothes off his back and the food that he has to help you. And that's so generous, but that's the value of a person and not to do with money or success or anything like that. So to them, they have enough, or they may not even think that they have enough, yet they're still willing to give it away.
Yeah, I've heard lots of stories and watched lots of clips on. I waste a lot of time looking at clips like that, and people who'll save dogs, and spend all their money on saving the dog. I've spent a lot of time watching things like that. So I agree with you that is what gets media attention, but is it the absolute truth? Is it just that those are the stories that bring emotion out in people? Because emotion is what they're trying to get, right? So you get people in with emotion. So I wonder if that's the absolute truth of it. I certainly think I've gotten help from wealthy people over the years. My grandfather, wealthy man, he would have given you the shirt off his back. He would give people a house. He would give people a car. He would. So, I don't know that it can be mutually exclusive that poor people are more generous. I think the media gets more traction with those kind of stories. But that's my experience, and not necessarily anyone else's.
Yeah, I get that. No, I do get that. And that's the thing, everybody's got different experiences. Like I said earlier, those people who do come from a financially wealthy background or a secure background, they're always going to have that little bit more advantage, right? And you can span this across the world, right? It doesn't matter which area you live in, you're going to have either poor access to schools and education, or you're going to have better connections. And let's be honest, and you're looking at the crowd that you're hanging around with. Me and my brother had this conversation, and we've said, if you look at people who put their kids in private education, and then from private education, you look at what universities they go to, who they hang around with, and because of that, they end up being in political parties, or a part of the MPs or whatever it is. And I think that sometimes it isn't necessarily about you as a person. It's about who what where you are, and how you can use the connections to get you there, right?
No, absolutely. As an example of that, I was too young to really know who he was, but I was sitting at a party one time next to Sting, and this was just the networks that you have through your schooling, through your university, and being invited to places. And so, yeah, I know. And at the time I knew who he was, but I couldn't have cared less. I was like,
and that's the thing, people idolize people in the public eye, and it's just like, but they're just people, and
yeah,
like, you don't know
yeah.
them,
No,
or
I
you
didn't
think
know
you know
him.
them. I think that's why people
I think
idolize
that's
it.
more the thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was a very shy that night, very shy man. His wife wasn't there with him. He was there with a guard, security guard, who stood behind him, and so that's not fun for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he didn't really. I mean, he was very polite, very nice, but I
Yeah.
don't have a memory of him being a real party animal or anything.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, like you say, it's the networks and the connections. And if I had had any kind of musical ability or musical aspirations, then being sat next to him would have been a godsend. And imagine, you know, I would have said to him, I'm going to sing on the stage, listen to me or something, so, you know, whatever, send me to your manager. But, you know, but it, like you say, it's those connections you make.
Yeah. And that's the
Or the
thing,
position.
going back to what you said early on, you know, being a good person, what are your values, what are your personality traits, what are your characteristics? And we talk about values. It's almost like the values going through this season. It's like a silver thread, isn't it? And yeah, we've kind of said that what you find as being successful doesn't necessarily mean or be associated with wealth, right? Success to you is different. And I think that based on, say, for example, my values, I want to create stability, security, living comfortably. I want to pay my bills and go on holiday a couple of times a year without having to worry about money. And that being the baseline when it comes to financial success. So that for me is financial success. But I do want to be in a position where I can, say, plan a fun day with a family, take time off work and go on adventures without having to be concerned about earning extra income. And I think when I want to make money, I want to make money so I can experience things and have things I can enjoy on
Well, I
earth.
call that financial freedom.
Yes.
Not financial excess.
Yeah. So having the autonomy when it comes to, so obviously money is providing that stability where you can have the financial freedom, but you've also got the freedom of time, freedom of location, freedom within the business. And it doesn't mean I haven't struggled with money, but it also means that based on, say, our previous podcast, in podcast 16, we talked about individuals have different relationships with money. And sometimes that triggers other relationships if we don't look into the underlying problem. And what I mean is, some people are really thrifty. We talked about this before. Some people look for bargains. Some people save a lot of money, or they look for discounts and deals online. And that may come from not having enough money when they were younger, or the mindset was set because now they feel they need to have a comfort and stability over spending frivolously. Right, Cal? What do you think?
No, I absolutely agree. I had the same grandfather who ended up having a very successful business, grew up in the Depression, or close to the Depression anyway, and they would have to steal chickens to live, you know, to have enough food. So that again was a silver thread through his life. So even though he had money and would give it to other people, I think more because he understood poverty, that he would give a lot away. He did. He gave millions upon millions of dollars away, but he lived quite thriftily. He would darn socks, or my nana would darn socks, and he wore the same suit to church every week. He didn't have two suits, and he could have afforded two suits.
Yeah.
He didn't have a very fancy car. He had a nice car and a safe car, but he didn't have a fancy car. So, yeah, I think what you were saying about growing up being thrifty oh gosh, what are the words? See, mentally blank.
Sorry, what did you say?
I'm just saying that a thrifty younger adult life will go into how you perform the rest of your life, really, or how you manage money throughout your life.
I think there's a massive value in teaching kids, about finances and financial awareness, security, and then everything these days is very instantaneous. And also, I don't know if you've noticed, is when I was younger, it was cash, right? You would pay cash for most things, but also your ins and outgoings, because you would have that physically to say, okay, I have this much cash in my wallet. How much do I need to spend, and how much do I need to over what period of time? But I feel like, because now we've all got credit cards, and there is a massive push, especially after COVID, contactless, right? Don't touch anything, and money's got lots of germs and disease and carrying lots of things like that we're missing that value, because we end up with a plastic card, tap and go, and then we get our bill at the end of the month, and there's a lot of, I didn't realize how much I've spent, or I maybe have overspent this month, or it's just like, I feel like that has altered our relationship. Like, even for me, who is a person who is thrifty or is a good saver, I am still very aware of how much I'm tapping and going. Like, this weekend I went to London, and there was still a mental calculation of how much I spent. And I was like, oh, okay, probably not ideal. I shouldn't have done that impulse purchase. But yeah, I got shoes, for crying out loud. And I was like, I know I needed shoes. I know I wanted them. But then I was like, that's obviously hiked up the total cost of the weekend, right? Which it's all on the credit card I'll need to pay for. But anyway, I was just a bit like, I liked the way that you gave an example of your father and your grandfather, sorry. And it reminded me of Warren Buffett, because we know he's got millions of billions of dollars, but he drives the same car, he lives in the same house, and he hasn't lived in the way some people live. And it's almost like, if you want to be a millionaire, don't dress like one. Don't spend like one.
Yeah, well, it's that photo. Who is it? It's Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, I think, and they don't have a label on between them.
Yeah, right. It's just like, you don't need to dress like a millionaire, but if you don't, then obviously you don't know who millionaires are in this world. And it's funny as well, because did you notice, or were you aware that designer brands target middle class to low class people? Now, I don't know whether that's obviously a terminology that's appropriate these days, like in terms of classes, but what I'm trying to say is they don't target the rich, because the rich, if you notice, are given stuff for free. They're given things to wear. They are given...
They don't pay for it.
Right, nothing. They don't pay for anything, but they are like almost lended the expensive dress for the runway or for the premiere or wherever they are. They don't pay for that crap. But the people who look at them, read the magazines, look online, follow them on Instagram and TikTok, they are the ones who are tempted to then go, ooh, look at this designer brand. I need that. I want to be that. I want to be associated with it. And really, the designers target those people.
Yes. Yeah, I have heard that. I do believe that's true.
I love that. I just found it really, really funny. And it's just like, well, actually, yeah, you don't need to have designer brands. Maybe that thing of, if you want to be rich, don't look rich.
And at the same time, we're not advocates of fast fashion, are we? So we want clothes that are made to last, good quality,
are comfortable,
and are comfortable, but aren't necessarily with a huge price tag. Ones that last, we don't want one season wear kind of clothes.
Well, it's funny as well, because obviously we're talking about, which we did in episode 16, keeping up with the Joneses, right? What is the perception of where you are in comparison to others? But the bigger question, I feel, that I want to ask you, Cal, is my dad has said this to me, and I know somebody has said this to you too. How much is enough?
Yeah, I know. How much is enough? Well, I think you need to be able to pay your bills.
Yeah.
And write a list about things. Like your list was perfect. Travel a couple of times a year, be able to pay your bills, giving back and being a contributor to society. So
Yeah.
be
I'm
yeah.
I'm very lucky now. It's and I did this before when I was like, okay, so I'm gonna give a certain amount of money every year, and it was always before Christmas because I'd look at my whole financial year and I'm like, where am I at? And that's how much I would predict giving to charity. And sometimes
Yeah.
I'd split it, and sometimes I'm like, well, it's not enough to split. Let me just give a big chunk because sometimes that'll help the charities more. And then now what I've done is I've stopped giving at the end of the year. And every time somebody has something going on with the charity, or there's something meaningful, or, a humanitarian crisis, for example, you are more likely to then just give, because it's just like, give it now. And then I'll always make accommodations for that. And obviously, I've got a business, so it's different, but not a lot of people are able to do that. So it's almost like, you've got money for your bills, you've got money for your food, you've got money for your pension and your savings and blah, blah, blah. But why not make a little pot for not just the extras, but the extras that you can give away? Because then a lot of people come to the end of the month and they're like, oh, I can't help your charity, or I can't help you, or I can't help this. But there is always going to be reserves. So it's almost like, have you accounted for those reserves? And I really liked the fact that now I can be so autonomous and just go, right, you know what? This has come out of the blue. I can then give, because it's come from the heart rather than I'm giving this amount. And I normally don't talk about charities or giving money away because I feel it's personal to me. And I've also heard a lot of stories where people are like, I've done this because look at me. Oh, yay. And I
Yeah.
hate those stories. So I'm like, it's almost like you're patting yourself on the back when you put on social media, I've given to charity. It's like, you don't need to tell anyone.
No, I never do that. But sometimes when when I do see, oh, someone else did, and then there'll be a little bit of interest in it, and maybe it does get a few more people contributing.
Maybe. Yeah.
I know, but yeah, if it's done as a pat on the back, then yeah, that's a little
I
bit
don't think people
pretentious.
are aware of it. Maybe, and I'm trying to be positive in this way. Maybe they're not aware of it and they think that, like you said, they're trying to encourage other people to do more of this thing. But I feel like sometimes it can come across as maybe a little bit, like I said, unconsciously tapping yourself on the back, even though they may not think of it that way. But anyway, let's move on. My dad says, my dad says you
Yes.
can't take it with you, as in you don't want to be the richest person in the graveyard. So how do you balance working crazy hours, working a second job, not having time for your loved ones or family because you're concerned with making money? And it could be for security, it could be for whatever reason. There is a massive, do you think that maybe it comes from, people's insecurity, or not having the security from when they were younger? So it's like the childhood traumas or the childhood patterns, or behaviors that they were taught.
Wow. I can only speak from my own experience. I want to make my own way in the world. So I'm more than happy not to be given money. I'm happy to be given help, assistance, the introducing me to people, but I really enjoy the grassroots of everything I've ever done. And I don't think I'd change anything about my career because we've chosen a hard industry to work in, both of us. Do you feel like you've had a bit of a leg up in this industry? I certainly have. Most certainly have.
I don't think I would have been able to coach if it wasn't for my parents and our background. Like my parents came obviously to the UK, and obviously in a previous podcast, I've explained, the heritage and the way we've come to the UK. And then me and my brother were born in the UK, but they had a hard time, right? They struggled. And they struggled to give me and my brother the best of everything. Like, we were never without. And even if they were struggling, we never knew. Like, we weren't aware that there was so much that my parents gave me and my brother. But what I feel is there was no way I would have got into the coaching industry the way I have if it wasn't for the support of my parents, right? It's like I was able to volunteer way more hours. I was able to take risks because I knew I had a safety net. And this is why the coaching industry is so difficult, because you are segregating people who don't have that opportunity. But then it goes way back from the start. There are certain financial success and kind of like that affluence that navigate people's careers, right? So if you come from a boarding school, you're probably more likely to go to, I don't know, Eton. And if you go to Eton, you're more likely to go into the parliament and become an MP and blah, blah, blah. And if, for example, you came from certain areas of London, which don't have great access to education or schools, or you have to go into manual labor because that was your option, I feel like that navigates a lot of people's pathway. And I feel like both you and I, Cal, have had the support to get into coaching, but also we are very determined to still make our own way. Like, and that's where the 2 jobs and the 3 jobs came in for me, because I was like, I know I'm getting support, but how much more can I do rather than just lean on them and sit in my deck chair, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Not that we had a deck chair. I don't even know where that frame of reference came from.
But I know what you mean, and it does make sense. I never wanted to be one to sit in my deck chair either. It's much more fun to get out and about and learn and fail and learn again. You know, that's where all the stories come from. How boring to just, be given everything.
But I think that we're so curious about things. It's even though we're given the baseline, we're given the opportunity, what more can we do? It's almost like, what I want to say is, speak properly, Tulsi. What I want to say is, we have been given a certain amount of security, of help, support, love, all of these things. But that means we can risk more. It's almost like we can fail faster, we can fail more, but some people don't want to do that. So it's almost like we've been given a level of security that it's almost like we don't need to be pushed out the nest, but we want to fly. So it's almost like, okay, we've got enough, and our parents haven't pushed us out of the nest. It's almost like, right, do what you want. Do you want to fly there, or do you want to fly there, or do you want to fly there? And it's like, ooh, okay. Now that I've got options, I've got the chance to fail. And when you have that safety, you're probably more likely to fail. And as a consequence, succeed, right? Because they go hand in hand.
Yes, they do. Yeah. And again, it's how you define your success. So, learning to fail is a success. You got to learn to fail. You got to learn. Learn to fail, or is it accept failure and then start again from where it went wrong, before it went wrong, and then start again, but a different track, So it really is how you define your success.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I think just around it, we must come back to how we began in this podcast. Success might not directly be correlated with money or wealth, but it does need to be recognized and reflected upon when you know what success means to you. Are you willing to compromise on things like hours, extracurricular activities, adventures, whatever it is? It's like, are you willing to be a bit more generous? Are you willing to, what are your values? What does success mean to you? And how does wealth and money align with those things? Or does it even align? Does it actually matter? Because we know that there is a certain standard. What do you think, Cal? That was a bit of a verbal diarrhea there.
So what are you actually asking me? What do I
No,
think
nothing.
about?
I was just going to say,
Oh,
just to round up, like success might not directly be correlated with money or wealth, because
oh yeah, no,
for one person,
absolutely.
success means something else to another person.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, financial success or financial freedom, I think should be part of what you try to do, because it's liberating and it is very exciting to be able to look after yourself and pay for yourself. And you know what? Financial freedom gives you choices as well. And choices
Yeah.
is a very healthy thing to have, and to know that you have choices, because once you become limited in your choices, or you believe you're limited in your choices, then I think your mental health suffers as well.
Yeah.
And when you don't have health in any shape or form that it might come in, then, other things start breaking down. So yeah, financial freedom, to have enough money to have breaks, to travel if that's what you want to do, to look after yourself, to have enough food, to have shelter, all that, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that can bring you success. So what are the hierarchy of needs? And I'm really asking because I don't know, that I can't remember them all. Shelter, love, and it's not necessarily in this order either. Shelter, food, love, relationships, and security in those relationships. Anyway, it goes up and up and up. And the more you have of the bottom, or each time you fulfill one of the bottom of the pyramid, you're a step forward to success, and a step forward to success, and a step forward to this ultimate little pyramid at the top of
Yeah,
success.
because the last point is self-actualization, isn't it? It's
That's right. Yes.
yeah, so it's safety at the bottom, love and belonging, esteem, and then self-actualization. And it's just like the higher up you go, it's like first you've got that security, you've got employment, you've got resources, you've got health, you've got family, property, perhaps, and then you've got friendship, family, sexual intimacy. Then it's self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect by others, and then morality, creativity, spontaneity, problem solving, acceptance of facts. So it's almost like, yeah, you don't need the top, but it's like when you've got the basics, you can eventually
Get it, but you can, and they've shown that you can reach the pinnacle without having the
yes.
bottom, but it's hard to stay there, and it's not necessarily a fun place to be either, because you're at the top, but you're not sharing it with a partner
Yeah.
or a family. And yeah, you don't, and so it does topple, and you can see that with people who've achieved fame very quickly, or at an early age, more that they've achieved it quickly and they haven't gone all of those steps beforehand, because you tumble down to the lower level, and you've got
It
to
makes
achieve that.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense because it's like you said earlier, if everything's given to you, then some people might be like, oh, well, what more can I do with this? And other people like, I'm just cruising. I have nothing to give, or I'm not curious about anything because everything is handed to me on a silver platter. But then on the flip side, just to add on, just to round up our podcast today, it's funny you talk about having that security and having that freedom, because it was only in the 1970s that women couldn't have that financial freedom for themselves, right? And it meant that they had to obviously rely on their husbands, and they couldn't open a bank account, they couldn't own a credit card. And did you know, I didn't know this, but my brother told me this, is the reason why women don't have pockets in their clothing, it's because there's no need for them to carry money, because they were then reliant on a man to pay for things, which is again, you're throwing away any sort of freedom and onus. And well, you had none, right? You didn't have any of that.
Goodness.
And you're relying on somebody else to support you.
Yeah. No, I think we both would have been a thorn in some poor 1970s man's side, Tuls.
That's why we were born in this like era.
Yeah, we were born in the era we were born in, or we grew up in that, because I cannot imagine. Although, if you're born into it and that's all you know, but I feel like I would have been, I don't know, I would have, yeah.
Maybe it
I
would
would've
be
stayed
different people because
outside
there'll
the
be
square.
different circumstances, right?
Yeah. I don't remember my nana never having money. She sure had a big purse.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, they'll have money, but in terms of it's given, isn't it? It's almost like, oh, here's your pocket money. And it's like, wait a second. Like
maybe
the men still had the financial control or the household
Yeah.
finances under control.
Yeah, they got their pin money or their housekeeping. That's what it was called in Australia, at least housekeeping
Yeah, there you
money.
go. So guys,
Oh,
my
no,
goodness.
no.
We've
Please
talked
don't
about
bring it back.
everything. Like we could go on for another hour probably, but we're going to round up on this penultimate episode. And if you enjoyed it, like I said, let us know in the comments, give us a message just to see what your thoughts are about success and money and whether you agree with us, or even if you don't agree with us, we'd love to hear your opinion. We would love to catch you on Spotify, on YouTube, or even Podbean. But remember, you can support us on Patreon. All the links are in the description box below. And we will see you for our final episode. Bye, Cal.
Bye, Tom.